Hey there, welcome to GSPN's NBA free agency coverage. We are live. It is seconds until 5 p.m. Central, which is, of course, the start of NBA free agency. It's a very exciting time, and I'm even more excited to be joined by my close friend, Jordan Treske, host of Talk of the Tundra and Win in Six. Jordan, happy free agency, buddy. How's it going?
It's going well. Free agency is always fun. The Bucks might not be in big conversations, but they got to keep tabs on everybody, keeping tabs on all the comings and goings. So yeah, free agency is always fun, and I enjoy when we do these things.
Me too. It's been a fun week of lives on YouTube. The community has been amazing. So shout out to everyone who's already in here. If you're watching live, also shout out to audio listeners, of course. Appreciate everyone who tunes in. We've got quite a day ahead of us. It is officially 6 p.m. Eastern. Now, is it just like everyone wants to wait a little bit to not seem like it was too close? I mean, we'll see how far until the deals actually start. Oh, I see. Oh, we got stuff. Luke
We got stuff
Cornett,
already.
1-year deal. Boom.
Luke Carnett opens free agency.
I love it. I love the play. There's always a funny one that opens. I mean, this could have been announced anytime. He's returning to his team. This didn't even need to be announced now. So I think Luke
Yep.
Cornett just wanted to be the guy, but assume it's probably a minimum. If it's there's tax
Yeah.
implications. Like you can give a guy a raise if you've had them even just for 1 year. It depends on the cap how much like you can increase versus what vet min is. It doesn't really matter, but for salary tax teams, for deep tax teams, I should say, an actual functional minimum, like the NBA covers some of that. It's better on the tax bill, so we're gonna assume vet min for Luke Cornett. I don't think I had him on my free agents list, so no update needed at this time. Um, what if that's all we get? We said we'd go like at least two.
Just
We said we'd go 2 hours max. Imagine the whole time we're just talking about the Luke Cornett deal and how it changed the league.
Used to be a space occupied by the Bucks. Once upon a time, Tony Snell was like the first reported free agent move in like 2017. Bucks followed that up with
Yeah,
Ursan coming back with no one ever expected that.
that was so good.
It was so good. But yeah, Luke Cornett becoming the new 5 o'clock special is great.
Yeah. It just kills me. He could have announced it like weeks ago and it just happened to come out now.
Hmm.
All right, Jordan, who would you like to see the most be announced as a Milwaukee Buck today? We'll say free agency signings only for now. There's also trade options we can talk about in a little bit as well.
I don't want to take this name because we were literally just talking about it before we went live, but it does intrigue me, and I think it solves a lot of problems for the Bucks in terms of filling the vacant hole that everybody assumes will be vacant with Malik Beasley going off for elsewhere.
Yeah.
I would like to see Gary Harris come to Milwaukee, starting two guard, good wing defender, good 3 point shooter, even though he's had some dips in efficiency some years. Feels like he's fully back from like that kind of 2 year dip where wasn't playing as well, gets traded from Denver, goes to Orlando, totally different situation.
Yeah.
Denver wins the title, but he kind of, the what's like the players that you move on, like the Eric Bledsoes of the world, like they did their job in the journey to get to the title, but he wasn't a part of like the actual celebration kind of thing.
Yep.
I think he just kind of
The
for
Wesley
what
Matthews.
yeah, Wesley Matthews, that kind of player he's kind of like occupied or like archetype obviously, but also like in the Buck sense of just winning the title too. But yeah, I
Yeah.
just think it solves a lot of problems. I think he's kind of a name that no one's really talked about for. I mean, he's not a big name by any means.
Yeah.
There's not a lot out there. I doubt that
No.
he gets like MLE money because that would be going. I think that would be quite the shot from some team if they did that.
Yeah.
Um, here you go.
No, it's he's really up there for me too. I mean, I've talked about Haywood Highsmith. There's a report that he's been talking to Miami, so it seems a little less likely to me. I have someone like a Najee Marshall higher on my board who some John in
Yep.
chat asked about. I don't know if it's feasible if the Bucks could get him. Frankly, like I try and cast a really wide net like this because there's no way for us to know, or even for the league to know, who is going to have a market and who's not. Who's going to be able to make more than vet min and who's not. It depends on so many things, including the rest of everything, how long a player wants to wait and try to ride it out. Oh, we might use our MLE on this guy, but this guy depends on the Paul George signing, and the Paul George signing depends on, all of these different things. Sometimes players will just go and try and get a spot that they like. I think the upside of signing with the Bucks is, as you mentioned, there's a wide open path to starting. It's not,
Yeah.
I'd say, guaranteed, but I think obviously the pathway is there. You're competing with, players in the second year or maybe a third year of their careers, and that's it, right? And the guy in the third year has played way less than the guys in their second years. Speaking about, of course, Marjan versus AJ Green or Andre Jackson Jr. And then you have two rookies coming in who I wouldn't expect to start, but just in case. Got the 77 on. My guy, A.J. Johnson. If he's starting, I'm wearing this all the time. Just wait. We do have one more deal. Kevin Hart returns to the Heat. 2 years, $8+ million, which is pretty high. I'm going to guess that's like non-bird maybe, or some sort of thing. I don't think they'd use part of an exception on him. And Klay Thompson's going to talk to the Mavericks, Lakers, Clippers, and 76ers in the opening hours of free agency. So Klay is also a pretty big domino here. It's going to be...
I'm calling. Sorry, not to
No,
interrupt.
you're good.
I'm calling Klay to the Lakers.
Yeah.
Said
I
in our
think
private chat. I think it would be a pay cut, but the rumblings that LeBron is willing to take a pay cut. I think there's two things that play for the franchise that your father played for and got drafted first overall by, I think that was the Lakers. Kind of gives them an emotional lift. Also, if you want to really get under the skin of the Warriors, who are kind of taking a big L this
yeah.
offseason already, you want to go to the Lakers and kind of put in their nose, especially for, not that it matters in the NBA as much anymore, but it's the division. So you
Yep.
have
There's some
twice the
more
incentive.
games. Yeah.
Yeah. You have twice the incentive to kind of put it in their face of, I'm still a productive player and you moved on from me with little to no backup plan.
Well, the funniest part is potentially with no benefit. I mean, so the big news right before we got on here was the Warriors waiving Chris Paul, which he had a basically non-guaranteed $30 million deal for this year. And they were keeping him around because, well, maybe we can package him in a trade for Paul George if he opts in. Paul George opts out. Suddenly there's really no one left for the Warriors to trade that for. And now it's like if they lose Klay, which all the reporting is, like Klay is out. Klay is pissed that they prioritize Paul George over him, which I understand from, I think, both perspectives, but certainly from Klay's, and just is not interested in re-signing there. I'm sure that the offers haven't been great either from the Warriors side, which, again, I understand. I mean, he certainly declined and had injury troubles, but still was an elite three-point shooter this last season. And now they're looking at just opening up the MLE by dumping Chris Paul, too. The question I posed to you before we started, is there an MLE player better than Chris Paul available? I don't know. It certainly makes your salary bill cheaper, and that's probably a consideration. I think they were like straight up just direct reports that they weren't going to be, a second apron leading tax team again after doing that for so many years. So I guess there is a limit to the Joey Lightyear spending, but pretty tough spot for the Warriors right now.
Very tough spot. Also, if we're playing this game, that ownership group is paying a $50 million expansion fee with a new WNBA team. I know they print money with that franchise, or has long been suspected, but everybody feels the purse strings tighten every once in a while. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. Chris Haynes reported, according to Sam Esfandiari of the Light Years podcast, Chris Haynes reported the Bulls proposed Wiggins and Paul for Levine, and then the Warriors said no and waived Chris Paul. So really not interested in Zach LaVine, but I wonder how upset Warriors fans will be to learn they could have basically just had LaVine for two guys they're not really that fond of, two big salary pieces, and they just chose not to.
Yeah, that I don't know everything
Yeah,
about everything about the last 12 months, basically since Bob Myers left. There's just always been this uneasy feeling.
yeah.
I think Mike Dunleavy Jr. has former
What a
Bucks
shame that
enemy.
that guy sucks.
Yeah.
That is, what a big shame that is.
Talk about a nepo baby. Everybody's talking about nepotism. Dunleavy's been doing it for since the '80s.
Oh wow! So thank you, Mason in chat. I confirmed Sean Cunningham of the of Fox 40, a Kings beat reporter, um, reports sources confirm Sacramento Kings are pursuing a trade for Brandon Ingram. Told Kings have had discussions with Pelicans, and it's worth noting Ingram was an emerging star under coach Alvin Gentry, who is now in the Kings front office.
Oh, I forgot about that.
That would be added too. That would be very interesting. I did feel like after the big trade, was that yesterday when the Pelicans acquired
DeJounte?
Dejounte Murray? Yeah,
DeJounte.
a
Why did I say
little.
it wrong?
I don't know. It's probably one too many cooks in that kitchen, right? Dejounte, uh, C.J. McCollum, Brandon Ingram, Zion for however many games he's there. They draft Eves Missy, but those are the main four. I mean, and also they're really high on um, Trey Murphy. Herb Jones is there too,
Herb
great
Jones.
defender, two-way player. But in terms of like offensive players, I think they don't probably want Trey Murphy to be their fifth guy, and they probably don't want four guys who are going to need the ball a lot. So an Ingram trade makes sense. I wonder what comes back there. Is that going to be like, would that be Harrison Barnes in picks? Would there be a Herder involved? That's an interesting one. It's hard to figure out for the Pels like the perfect fitting player, or if they would just want like some draft capital and tax savings has been a big priority for that team. So we'll see what that does or how they adjust that.
What are your thoughts on the Murray deal? How do you think both teams made out in that?
I thought it felt pretty fair, maybe a little light for Murray, but also I think he's not a star, right? And
No.
I think he could maybe have that kind of Derek White impact of like, okay, drop him in a way reduced role and maybe he could thrive. Maybe. But I also don't know I guess it depends who they retain after all this. I don't know. I'm not really sold on him. I thought the Hawks did okay to get a couple of picks, and Dyson Daniels is sort of an intriguing prospect, but not one that I'm super high on, like very good defender. I think I like it for the Pelicans, though, just because their guard depth was pretty bad. They had all forwards, and their only real guard of note, I mean, Jose Alvarado is a fun story, but it's CJ, who's just not a two-way player. If I were them, I would think about
He's
trading
getting older
him
too.
too. Yeah, I would think about trading him before Ingram, but it seems like they're in a place where they're just done with the Brandon Ingram business, which I kind of understand. But I don't know. They're in kind of a weird spot.
I think we talked, this is kind of a continuation on the premium podcast that we talked about with our
Mm,
full draft grades. Subscribe to GSPN Premium if you want to listen to all this. But I felt like the Hawks were kind of in this mode of they were in the middle ever since making the Murray trade. That throw out all these draft picks just to get him. He's not this difference maker that they believed after this kind of ransom that the Spurs get. And one, I think they kind of made good on the deal of what was out there. I do think this reinforces that they're just not going to be that good, and it probably leads to maybe Trae Young leaving next offseason if they want to try to get more. I think this kind of idea that there's this optimal DeJounte Murray role out there just doesn't exist, just because he's a good player, but trying to like do this optimized, okay, we're gonna have you be like this third option super defender that takes on the best guards and wings just because he has long wingspan and all that stuff. And I don't know if it can happen in New Orleans. I don't really know if there's an ideal environment where it happens anywhere, because he just isn't that guy to me. It doesn't. I don't think it's a bad trade from New Orleans, and really they have a surplus of picks where they can still make this kind of move, and it doesn't really hurt them. But I do wonder if it's eventually just gonna be kind of like the fact that the Hawks are getting out of the Murray business, and
yeah.
they're gonna take on more harder L's, I would say, in the next couple of years. I just wonder if that's better to just to start fresh rather than continuing the rates that they were at right now.
Yeah, I think so, and I like the idea of just focusing on Trey. I think it was kind of crazy they wanted to trade him. I mean, I think you can certainly pick nits with his game, but he is basically a walking 30 and 10. I think it's not easy to build a team around him, but I think it would be possible to build a very, very good team around him. And DeJounte just wasn't the right fit, clearly. He wanted the ball
Yeah.
too much and was not giving them enough defensively, which I think really makes me more skeptical than anything for like the New Orleans side of the deal. Um, any fake news in chat, and you will get timeouted. By the way, we had somebody put that Klay Thompson signed 2 years, $60 million with the Lakers. They can't offer that deal. It sounds like Klay is taking his time to chat with some teams, so we'll see how long that takes. But please don't do that. There was a question earlier. Andrew asked, "We think Precious is out of price range." Probably not.
I don't think so.
I think a very reasonable minimum. He was on my list. I think the big thing that had to happen, which did happen the other day, is he was a restricted free agent. So basically, the Bucks are pretty much out of commission on any restricted free agents. I mean, I don't even know if they could technically sign an offer sheet with only vet min, but if they did, the team would always match, right? You can always match. Like
Yeah.
you can only offer a tiny deal. In this case, it would be the Knicks. They'd say, "Thank you, sure, we'll take him for 3 years, all vet min." But the Knicks renounced him. So he is just an unrestricted free agent. I don't know. I mean, like I don't know. I don't believe the Knicks could pay him anymore. Like, I don't think he'd be an MLE guy for most teams. He's like a backup big, little undersized to be a true center, not really a floor spacer. He takes threes, but not doesn't shoot them well. I think he would be available. I think he would be a pretty enticing option as that backup big, kind of slotting in ahead of Tyler Smith for the time being as he develops. It'd be even more crucial if the Bucks did make a move, sending Brook or Bobby Portis out somewhere.
Yeah, that's that touching on the current big situation. That is kind of, I guess, the biggest storyline regarding the Bucks going into free agency is the Brook Lopez of it all. There's a lot of noise.
Yep.
I think some of it is unfounded. I think some of it's clearly one-sided. Like the Lakers want to trade for Brook Lopez
Yeah.
because he's a
LeBron is
good
just
NBA
texting
player.
wish lists to reporters at this point.
Yeah, and it's like you wish listed Rob Pelinka to draft your son. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like that's just what he does.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I don't I continue I would be shocked if Brook Lopez gets traded. That would mean that the Bucks have some sort of contingency plan in place, which they have talked about, having a change of pace big. I don't think that's your starting center. I don't think that's necessarily, you know, starting center that's equal value of Brook Lopez. Maybe it is like a Precious Achua kind of player that's very energy and effort kind of big that gives you a little bit more perimeter defense that you could switch up your defense and your scheme and everything like that. I continue to be kind of baffled that I don't really understand why they would trade for someone. You mean like this thinking out there that they would trade for someone that is not as proven,
Yeah.
or and obviously Brook is older. Bobby comes with his own sort of defensive limitations, but both kind of are in the same ballpark for me where their value is very great to the Bucks right now, and it's just hard to find players that can be had for their what they are.
Yeah, I think the only way there would be a Brook trade is if there was that player that we talked about that the Bucks are missing, like the perfect guy to slide in at the two, and just really be a defensive menace between Dame and Chris, and then provide something offensively. So the kind of names, and some people will find some of these names distasteful, but like Lugens Dort, Dylan Brooks, someone like that, like a very established. Like I don't think you trade Brook and bring back a center in the deal unless you're like cutting money and bringing back multiple players. I think the main player you're bringing back is that two guard player who they just clearly need right now, someone to defend and keep the ball moving, that sort of thing. Maybe make a couple shots between those guys, and then you'd have to go find whether it's through signing or signing a new big. Then probably to start. I don't think you want to start Giannis at the five. Big bomb here from Woj. Jazz are planning to release Omer Yurtseven, former Heat center. Another center on the board. If the Bucks start Omer Yurtseven next year, I don't know if I can watch.
Hey now, don't dream it's Omer. That is a song. Sorry. Uh, I would have thought there would have been at least one crazy deal and not uh just Luke Cornett going back to the Celtics for
Yeah.
moving on.
We got a Harden deal today, earlier.
That is true. Yeah, I shouldn't discount that. It's not.
No, I thought we'd have more since five too. Since five. It's been a pretty. We're almost 20 minutes in. Rohan and Seeks are excited about Big Yurt being on the
Big
table.
Yurt. No Frank Thomas, obviously.
No, no, nice. The Big Yurt. We had a couple questions. Moose was one. I think we had other people just asking, do we think the Bucks make a move today? My inclination is yes. I mean, the way Milt Newton spoke after the Tyler Smith pick, when he basically said, like, we have to get our win now players in free agency or like in other places. I feel like they have a pretty good beat on someone. I do wonder again how much is held up by the Paul George and then lesser so the Klay Thompson and DeMar DeRozan decisions. I mean, there's clearly some teams with real cap space or sign and trade ability who are going to be able to make one of those moves and then they'll cascade from there. But I have to imagine the Bucks have a good answer somewhere lined up for this two guard spot. So I do think there's going to be a move today. It may not be immediately when free agency opens. Again, these things may be held up, but I do think at some point the Bucks will make a move today.
And it's tough from their perspective because these players that are in vet min territory, they can easily kind of survey their options and look at the best place that they want to play. But the Bucks still, even after last year, they can have the selling point. Well, you're playing next to Giannis Antetokounmpo, you're playing next to Damian Lillard. You have a rock solid third starter, third star, and Chris Middleton when healthy. You can complete this kind of starting lineup,
Yeah,
and they have success of finding these guys that I know we've always fixated on the fifth starter for a very long time now.
yeah.
But whether it's been Malcolm Brogdon, who eventually gets payday, um,
Dante
Malik Beasley
DiVincenzo.
last year, Grayson Allen, Dante
Yeah.
DiVincenzo, like
Those guys, well, that's why I want Beasley to get the bag and really put it in front of these other free agents. Like, you're right. I mean, to call out all these guys, I've only been thinking about Beasley, but there's like a very clear pathway to being the fifth starter on the Bucks and then signing a contract that gets you eight figures annually, right? Like all of these guys, I think, ended up making at least that much.
yeah.
Dante, it took him a couple years, but he just now guy wasn't direct maybe, but also there was just injury concerns there. It probably would have been that direct if he'd been able to stay healthy and be anywhere close to this level of production. The Bucks might still be paying him. Unfortunately, that didn't happen. But Grayson gets traded and gets a huge extension. Like it's really been a shot in the arm to these guys' careers. Their role in Milwaukee. We'll see what happens with Beasley. I don't know where he's going to go. I've seen the Warriors
His
floated
landing
a
spot
lot.
would be very interesting unless if he just chases the bag, which is entirely possible. Like I
I don't
do
know
think
if there's going to be a real bag for him, but I could see, like, if the
think
Warriors have,
Michael Scotto said that he's chasing the MLE bag
yeah,
level kind of
which
bag,
I mean,
which
that's what probably like almost 60 million this year, 4 years, so a lot more than the Bucks could give
yeah,
him. That's for sure.
but that you're not going to a good team if that happens, obviously. We got another bomb. Are you ready?
Oh boy, I don't know if I
Kelly
am.
Iko of The Athletic is reporting that Nicholas Batum will not be returning to the 76ers.
That is kind of a bomb.
That is
I'm
a bomb.
interested in Nick Batum. I know we don't want any more old players, and maybe it's just because he had a freaking legacy game in the playoffs last year. I mean, he knows what to do, man. He could end up being like Boss Man though.
I have really enjoyed him finding his kind of the post and sorry, Andrew Snyder. The post Charlotte experience. Basically when he
Yeah,
was getting the bag
he was
during
checked
the
out.
2016 summer. Ever since he got waived from the Hornets, he's been really just found his way, and it's nice.
People
It's nice
were
not to just to lay into these players that are getting life changing money, and we're like, oh, you're overpaid.
It is. What was I gonna say? Oh, people were sharing memes of when he first got out and he started to play well immediately. Of Like it's from one of the Charlie and the Chocolate Factory movies. Like the guy seems all decrepit and he does like a front flip into the gates or whatever.
Oh yeah, you're like a really good basketball player. We just always forget about that.
Yeah. It turns out you're not a second option, but you can play as a role player.
Yeah. Yeah,
The
he'd be interesting.
Magic, the Magic. So this is Michael Scotto's latest. He dropped an article. Do you have something? Wait, did you see something come across?
No. I didn't know
Oh
if this is new.
no, this is just reporting on what's going on. The Magic will meet with Paul George and have significant interest in KCP, which could limit their chances of spending big on Thompson. Clay is going to meet with the Lakers, Mavericks, and Magic. It's unclear if the MLE would be enough. It would have to be for the Lakers.
Yeah.
Dallas has sign and trade interest, and the Magic have cap space. People are asking why no Clay on Bucks. They don't have money. They can't sign and trade. That's why. Paul George, we know, meeting with the Clippers, Sixers, and Orlando. According to Hoops Hype, Scotto, the 76ers are preparing a maximum contract offer, which I have to imagine that probably gets the job done unless the Clippers really come through, which would be a pretty frightening big three over in Philly. I don't know how healthy they would stay, but that would be their best three players at least since the Embiid Jimmy Butler team that
Yep.
was really close to beating those Raptors, and who knows how things unfold from there.
Yeah,
And
I
then the Magic are
wonder.
getting a meeting too, but I don't know if people really. I don't know if there's an expectation that they'll actually be able to get him.
The Magic are they're using these kind of interesting ploys.
Yeah.
They're big game
Oh,
hunting, but
the Sixers are. They see Ingram as a backup plan for Paul George, and then the Kings as well. The Kings are dropping a trade package around the league. Oh, I think still even post draft. Herder Barnes 13 pick, which is Devin Carter. It's kind of interesting. Oh no, now it sounds like they're doing future picks. My bad. It's kind of worded weird.
okay.
Klay Thompson interest all over. As we know, the Lakers potentially taking less money to get him. Isaiah Hartenstein's bidding war, which kind of gives me a. I don't know. I like Isaiah Hartenstein too. I feel like we maybe be a little overexcited about Isaiah Hartenstein, but
Yeah, it happens every. He's a good player, but it just the reverse Batum sentiment that I just had. He's he's getting crazy money wherever he's
yeah.
going.
The two teams interested right now, besides New York, are Oklahoma City and Orlando. And it sounds like teams are now sniffing around Wendell Carter Jr., of course, if he's going to be available, which that's interesting from a Bucks perspective. And the Pelicans are looking to add a center, even with Misi. I think the Grizzlies may be looking to add a minimum center, too. They have Edie, but, I think he feels as pro-ready as any rookie ever, but you still probably want depth and veteran options there.
A lot of people in the chat asking, can the Bucks get Omar Yurtseven on a two-way? He just played his third season. I forget the rule of eligibility. That's from Carl O. They can. I
I
think it's
think
4 years.
so. I have to look.
I know it was originally 3, and then they have since changed it, but I don't know if they changed it back.
I think they might have changed it back post-COVID.
Yeah.
A trade suggested here is Brook for Wendell Carter and Cole Anthony. Without looking, I'm going to guess that doesn't get them below second apron, so it's not a legal trade for them to take back two players for one, unless I'm very mistaken about the salaries there. Also, I just think Orlando would have no interest in doing that. That's
I
the
don't
thing
think
about Wendell
so
Carter
either.
trade. I think that's where I could see the Lakers getting Brook Lopez, is if it's a trade where I don't know what. Does Orlando want Rui? Like some of these Lakers guys who I don't think are interesting to the Bucks, and then Wendell Carter to the Bucks. That I think is an interesting trade construct. Don't know if that would ever actually happen, but I don't see. I don't know why Orlando would want Brook Lopez if they're looking to give Isaiah Hartenstein big money. It doesn't really make sense.
It is considering the restrictive new rules with the new CBA. It would not work as you mentioned, Ty, because it's
Yeah.
like in the ballpark, which would have worked pre new CBA,
Oh, what do
but
we
post
got?
new CBA, it's not as much.
What is Shams saying? This could be nothing. I can only see the first half of this tweet. The Thunder are in Eugene, Oregon to meet with Isaiah Hartenstein. Orlando's focused on wing free agents. Utah's focused on current roster decisions. So it's kind of a Lauri Markkanen thing happening, which is pretty interesting. If he
I
moves, that'd be
don't
a big deal.
I don't get the Lowry stuff.
I think it's just because he's such a good shooter that now that he can do anything on top of it, he's seen as a very nice like complementary star, which I kind of
That
get.
so it's basically like they would just view him as like the cash cow and get all these picks, like Danny Ainge would.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, it sounds like well they tried to get Mikal Bridges because they want to pair someone with
Yeah,
him, and they missed. And the reporting was, are we now worried we'll just never get someone? Right? And then what are we doing? Like we're never going to be good, so maybe do we just cash out before we have to give him a new mega deal? I don't know when his deal is up. I was too loud about Haywood Highsmith. He reported here by Scotto, expected to be a sought after free agent. Looks like he may not be able to go back to Miami. He's got stiff competition, cap space teams, including the Pistons, Hornets, Jazz, Spurs, and Sixers. The Hornets will attempt to re-sign forward Miles Bridges. Bad news for
attempt
Andrew's
is an
Hornets
interesting
fandom.
word there.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, if they want to, they clearly can.
Yes,
They
yeah,
have bird rights, so we'll see how much he gets offered. Yeah, they're saying full MLE could be Highsmith, so it sounds like that dream for Milwaukee is dead. There's no world where the Bucks open up the real MLE. Yeah, a big salary cutting trade maybe gets them the non-tax or the
yeah,
taxpayer, excuse me, but that's like 6 million, I think. So probably about half for what he's looking for now.
yeah.
So that's all the news and notes.
Uh, yeah, we're just waiting. We're just waiting. But it is not that the first half hour going into free agency and just kind of how lack of surprises there are so far. It shows just how a lot of things are tied up in the big
Yeah.
decisions, and then once that gets cleared, we'll see more of the non-stars but good role players start to get money and everything like that. I think that is
More than usual, I'd say though. Like I'm a little surprised we haven't had anything else come through. I mean, Luke Cornett is like, frankly, that's a non-story. I mean, that's
non-story for sure.
I know. So I'm a little surprised. I mean, maybe they wanted to wait till draft on the Celtics side. Like if we draft the center, maybe then we'll take them instead of Cornett. There's a Neemias Queta. I can't believe I'm talking about Queta on the free agent show. I mean, what are we doing? Like
Don't let John Hollinger
I
start on Kada.
yeah. I just I thought there'd be more of like some of the minimum guys just going, you know what? Like I think I'm taking minimum, like I'll just sign it somewhere. But maybe there's a lot of hopes and dreams of bigger contracts and then yeah, it's all depends on like what free agents sign where. I, I wonder what's going to be the next move. Like is it going to be do we really have to wait on Paul George or is there going to be like some mini flurry like well, I wonder too, like the Lakers are probably a big holdup in this because I'm sure a lot of players would want, if they have their full, maybe Warriors too, if they have their full MLE, a lot of guys probably would want to go play there. So now it's kind of sorting out like where does DeMar DeRozan go? Where does Klay Thompson go? Kentavious Caldwell Pope is a big one right now. So I almost feel like we need somebody to sign one of them, maybe even if it's not Paul George, and then there may be some more moves from there. Like, I know teams are waiting on Paul George and stuff, but there's probably three teams in the running. Those three teams can only have conversations with so many free agents from there who are
Yeah.
then waiting. Like, there's got to be some sort of side motion happening, or at least you'd think so.
Yeah, that's the thing for me is that it's like I would have thought maybe the players and pretty much this all gets reported on at some point from some outlet or source, but the players are not there's always just kind of like, oh, that guy got a bag, or like he's one of the first free agency deals. You know what I mean? Like Hardenstein probably would have been that pre, playoff bump, but to obviously right now it's just been very quiet that, you know, everything's held up seemingly by the decision of one or two. But I don't know. It's a weird start. Not something that we're accustomed to, especially over the last couple of years.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. Is this to beat tampering charges? Like, what's the agenda here?
Tampering, maybe new CBA stuff too. Not that these teams, I'm accusing these teams of not knowing how to operate a CBA, but
Yeah.
I do wonder if that there's still just this whole kind of newness that it's just a lot more restrictive for the good teams to get good players, and the teams that have cap space or the ability to sign free agents with like MLE or whatever kind of resources. Um, it's getting tied up with all this kind of stuff. So I don't know. I wouldn't
Windhorst
know
now
that
reporting Paul George had no idea that they were signing Kawhi to his contract, which, like, who cares? That's a random report, I feel like.
I love that.
Zach Edey dropped out of Team Canada.
No, is this for? Are they in? They're in the Olympics, or they're this for qualifying?
I think they're in it.
Is that right?
Yeah, they're in the Olympics.
Because they did they Oh yeah, because that's right. They with the FIBA World Cup, they got
Yeah.
bronze. I forgot about that.
We got a Kevin Love trade too, so we've had a lot of big stuff go down here.
I just love that Thunder real GM using the Thunder travel to Eugene, Oregon to meet with Isaiah Hartenstein is the biggest headline for free agency right now.
This has got to be a record for like years from now, where for when the first new team contract comes out.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like, who cares about tampering?
No,
Let them
it's
tamper. I want the deals. I don't care about the rules.
is today going to be more notable for the fact who the Pistons hired for their head coach than a free agency leaving their team or a
Well,
free
we
agent
know
leaving their
Nick
team?
Batum is leaving, but we don't know
That
where
is
he's
true.
going. People are sharing old Woj tweets. Ersan Ilyasova has agreed to a 3-year, $21 million deal in 2018. Day one. Man, they Ersan $7 million out of nowhere. Yeah, I want teams. I agree, Cam, and we should punish teams for not tampering because this is boring.
This is boring. I don't
I
think
didn't
they're ready.
expect this.
This free agency is not a 16 game player. I'm telling you right now.
No. Yeah. Anyone in the chat have any other questions besides other Bucks making moves? I mean, we think so. We expect at some point. We don't know when. But any other Bucks questions or potential free agents? They're mostly all still on the board here,
Yeah.
except for
Luke Cornett and Kevin Love.
yeah, didn't have either of them. So I took off Yuto Watanabe because I heard he left the country. Keita Bates Jop, I think, opted in. Oh, Alex Len opted in, I think. Or did he resign? I think he resigned.
He re-signed, yes, on a 1 year. I think it's like the vet bin,
Yeah.
which is like he's been in Sacramento for a very long time, and I was like, is he just hiding there? Is that what's just happening? He's playing for the
Uh,
Kings. I'm going to
Cam
b-ball
Reddish.
reference.
Cam Reddish opted in. I had him on here. So did Jay Sean Tate. The Rockets took that option. So there's a couple of guys lower on the list. My top 15 is still, or 14 is still in play, but like I do think Haywood Highsmith. I mean, I might as well mark him red because he's not taking that deal. He's not taking
Yeah.
a Bucks deal. I mean, he's gonna get better money. Number 9 on here, I had Xavier Tillman. If the Bucks need a big, with the Celtics re-signing Luke Cornett right away, That does leave a little bit more room for Tillman to potentially shake loose. That'd be an intriguing defensive athletic center option. Some other names on here. Kelly Oubre obviously would be really exciting. I imagine he gets more after taking vet min, but Fisher, what do you got? Please.
The Clippers are working to find a trade for Russell
Oh
Westbrook
my
after opting
God. Come on.
in.
A trade?
Let's look. The Nuggets have already considered avenues to add Russell Westbrook.
Hmm.
That would be
That's kind of
weird.
weird.
That's very weird. I did think about when I saw, I think that was yesterday, he was part of the many roster or player options that were had to be decided yesterday. I do wonder how many more years of Russell Westbrook is there? It's probably like one or two, I would imagine.
I don't know.
He's just a weird player to like talk about in general, just because of everything else. But like now, it's like he is clearly like this kind of wing guard, but
Yeah.
like super active rebounding guy.
I think, and I don't want to seem like I'm manifesting this. I think he could play for a while unless there's like a significant injury. Because I do think if anything saps the athleticism, that would spell the end quickly. But I think I think he has a couple years left before that point, pending anything unfortunate like that happening.
Yeah.
Some good questions here. Thoughts on Lonnie Walker? Would be a slam dunk flyer. I think would probably start at the two if they
Yeah.
signed him. Really intriguing wing player from the Spurs who basically just got lost in the shuffle on a really bad Brooklyn team. Like I think just nobody really noticed or cared most of what was going on that team. But let me pull up here the actual numbers. I think I actually saw it a pretty nice year all told. 25 years old, almost 10 points, 38% from three, 47% from two is solid. Didn't contribute much outside of scoring, but I'm not gonna hold it against him too much considering the team was really bad. But even in past seasons, like less than three rebounds, less than two assists has kind of been his norm. But he can slash, he's athletic, he can shoot. Like he'd be a fun two guard. They needed him to step up defensively, but I don't mind giving him that challenge.
I think he would be similar inspiration to like Beasley, just kind of that microwave scorer that could really feast up with attention going to Dame,
Yeah,
Giannis's, and Chris's way. I think there's just more tools to have there too. I as much as he's not like labeled as a good defender, I think he's certainly more engaged. I think
yeah,
Beasley made strides as a good defender this year, but there was just a limit to what you could do, and obviously we were kind of used to Hall of Fame level perimeter
yeah.
defense in Drew Holiday, so it's quite the mighty fall from that. But yeah, I think Lottie Walker would be kind of an interesting play there, and
I
he's
think
always
there's
been
a
an
world where he could be like a lead bench guard for you. Although I imagine if they sign him, it's with a at least soft promise that he gets to start.
yeah, absolutely. I think that would be very very good.
Cameron asks, who do you think will start game one at the two? Right now, I would guess Andre Jackson Jr., but I'm just going to say I need to see who they trade for / sign. I imagine, I'll say this. Here's my answer. I don't think the player is on the roster yet.
Yes,
I think someone is added who starts at the two, is my thought. But if things go poorly, then the rookies could really be up for it. Seeks asks, Ty or Vetman backup point guard? I would like both. Because right now I think you can have 3 point guards pretty comfortably on your roster. I would like to bring back Ty Washington Jr., see if the development continues. He really took step forwards as a shooter, which is big for him. I would also like to add one of Chris Dunn or Dennis Smith Jr. as a strictly defensive minded backup guard to give you a younger kind of version of what Pat Bev did. You could also, I guess, just bring back Pat Bev too, but I would prefer both. Behind Dame, of course.
yeah, I would like. I think Gary Harris would probably obviously be like the home run kind of
Yeah.
guy. Have we talked about Chris Dunn as we
Not
wait for
not
free
much outside of
signings?
me just throwing him out there. I mean, he would be you're small if you start him, but I think he would be an awesome first guard to bring off the bench.
Really? You think you'd be? I mean, I think that obviously happens with Dame to begin with,
Yeah.
but
Let me pull up the measurables here. Am I
he's like
low on?
six. He's 6'4".
Was 6'9" wingspan. Maybe you can start him. I mean, he really shot the three well last year, so he's not going to clog up your spacing. Yeah, I mean, if listen, if that's what it takes to get him to sign on the dotted line in Milwaukee, then I would be comfortable starting him. I'll put it that way.
Yeah, for sure. I think he's also kind of if you could hit a home run in like a tennis court kind of way. I don't know what that analogy is, but just not like a home run in like a big league game.
Yeah. Well,
He would be
The Bucks are they need to hit a couple good seeing eye singles here in free
yeah.
agency. Maybe a trade you can hit a home run. We'll see what they can opt. It always takes two to tango. But for free agent, like Gary Harris and Eric Gordon, let's say, to me that's their version of a home run this free agency.
Eric Gordon seems so on the nose that
Yeah.
I would understand it, but I also would be like, okay,
It's got to be the second guy brought in for me to like it. Like I
yes,
do think they could use that skill set, right, of a bench guard who can create for himself and others. They don't have that right now, and they've really never. I wouldn't even necessarily like Pat Bev sometimes, but he also has some games where like the layups don't hit and he's just not able to score for himself. He can make the reads and everything, but like a real bucket off the bench, it's kind of been a while. So I would be interested in that, but I don't want to bring in Eric Gordon and be like, here's your fifth starter, because then I think you're not solving any of your defensive problems. He's not helping you enough offensively.
and you're just kind of going. I mean, I kind of intimated this with like Lonnie Walker, but he's just more interesting. You still have like the youth to it, but
Yeah.
defensively, you just cannot survive with him and Dame on the
No,
floor.
especially not 35-year-old Eric Gordon versus 25-year-old. Like, there's just a huge difference in, like, what you can reasonably expect there.
Yeah, and he to his credit, he's really kind of
It's held
found
up.
his niche as of like the super flamethrower from three who can hit deep triples too. But
Yeah.
yeah, like it would not be enough for him to be like, hey, we signed Eric Gordon, as like the big signing.
Yeah. Gabagool asked, do I still want Big Biz B, Bismack Biombo? Wasn't a great year for Biz. I mean, I would take him as center depth. Again, at this point, like, any center question you have to answer first is there any change to the current centers or bigs on the roster, right? Because right now, like, it would be cool if they signed Big Biz. If Lopez and Portis are healthy, he just probably never plays. So it's like fine depth, but not a huge deal. We got the same Russell Westbrook report from Shams now. They're looking to trade him. Someone asked us about him coming off the bench as a trade move. Like, it would have to be Pat Connaughton for Russell Westbrook, a hilarious player for player trade on its face. Not necessarily with where they're at now, but just like imagine just like the prominence of both. Like you trade Pat Connaughton for Russell Westbrook. I'm assuming you have to attach probably significant pick capital to that. Like Russ is limited, but I mean still was an impactful player who helped the Clippers, I thought. And Pat Connaughton makes more and has more years on his deal. So I don't think the Clippers would really want him. So at that point, like you're attaching your maybe one first if you even can trade it, or like your 2 second-round picks. I wouldn't do that. Like I don't see the upside. I don't like a non-shooting point guard with Giannis, who's also not a good defender. That's really like the worst of both worlds. So
Yeah.
I don't think it's a fit.
I think it upsets the hierarchy too, is like he is such
Yeah.
a very peculiar fit that the best way to utilize Russell Westbrook is that if you're going with him, you have to go with him all the way, whether that's a six man kind of guy. But he's
Yeah.
not as much as he has the tools to be like this really kind of, I don't know. The name Andre Iguodala came to mind, who's like probably like the sixth
I
man.
was thinking the Golden State Warriors is a good fit, although they did just fail to work with the Clippers to trade for Paul George. So
That'd be the weirdest
that would be bizarre. I
outcome.
could kind of see it though.
But I just think they're at a point where they have no idea what they're doing right now, and it just seems that evident.
Yeah. Um, John asked, "What's more likely? Bryce hits another grand slam, or the Bucks sign someone in free agency?"
I think I know the
Um,
answer to that.
are you gonna say Bryce?
I think it's different.
If the Brewers had played tonight, I would probably take Bryce. I think they'll sign someone by tomorrow. I
Yeah.
would hope. A lot of backup big questions. Dario Saric, Mo Bamba, Drew Eubanks. Mary fuck kill. Go. Just kidding, but rank them. Which one would you like the most and
I'd
least?
sign. Um, I'd sign. He's not. He would probably like piss off Bucks fans because he's not a defender. But I'd sign Dario Saric because I just think he's very. He has at least creativity.
Yeah, I would
Like
take Saric first.
Saric, Eubanks, and who else? Bamba. I
Bamba.
cut Bamba, and I would.
Yeah.
Um,
Bench.
I was gonna say trade bench sounds better. Bench
Yeah.
Eubanks. Eubanks seems kind of like the chaotic neutral of any.
For that reason, I think I would do in order Saric, Bamba, Eubanks. And I'm really low on Bamba. Like I've just been out for years. When
This
people
is
are like,
Newmock's music right now.
well, he hopefully he's not in here because he's obsessed with him. I just like enough teams have given up and he's underperformed enough that I'm not. But like he's big, he's pretty athletic, he shoots. Like I see the outline, and I'd rather go for that than a Eubanks, who I think kind of just exists.
I don't want to go Seth Greenberg on everybody's ass right now with Mo Bamba being like he's the hybrid of Anthony Davis and
Yeah,
what was the guy Anthony Davis or whoever else.
yeah,
I don't know if I guess you if you're getting back into that lottery pick rehabilitation a la Dragon Bender. I think Mo Bamba is certainly an NBA player that Dragon Bender struggled to really be,
yeah.
but I just don't see much getting much use out of him. One guy that I
Oh
privately
no,
chatted about this morning with the GSPN folks that when I'm just like, oh, the Bucks can't do much in free agency, so you kind of like dumb down your like
yeah.
hopes
Oh,
and
okay.
dreams.
I thought you were gonna say someone else. I'm on board with this one.
Andre Drummond, I would like as a rebound eater and just like a big screen setter for Dame to really just like
Maybe the best rebounder in NBA history, at least modern NBA. He rebounds at an insane level.
yeah, and he again kind of post Pistons like end of his time in Detroit, really kind of ugly, but not entirely his fault just because the Pistons for the last 10 years have been, really just one Blake Griffin away from being like one of the worst franchises in a long time.
Yeah.
He gets cut. Did he get traded or cut? Or no, he was on
Um,
the
he
Cavaliers at one
was
point, right?
he was traded to the Cavaliers for parts, and then he moved to the Lakers, and then I think he went to the Bulls.
That's right.
So he was traded to the Cavs. I believe he then signed with the Lakers and then signed again. He's become a vet minimum guy. I believe he signed for vet min with the Bulls this last year. And like, is he, you know, is he? How do I say this delicately? Is he a basketball maestro? No. However, still relatively young. I mean, is he even 30 yet?
Let me see.
I mean, a
I think
relatively young player, Andre
he was
Drummond, we're
super young
talking.
in his draft class. I think he's 30 on the dot.
Okay, so, prime years. Has an incredible plus skill that we saw this playoffs, a very important skill. Teams that couldn't rebound really like lost series because of it very often. Like the Bucks were an example. The Bucks didn't rebound well enough this playoffs and they lost. I mean, there's obviously ulterior reasons, but some of the reasons they lost the games they found themselves in without Giannis and Dame. Them not being able to rebound really cost them. You will
Yeah.
not have that issue in Andre Drummond's minutes. And if you're without a big and you just throw out Drummond, you at least know you're going to be a very good rebounding team. He's going to do some stupid turnovers. He might try and dunk on his own teammates. He's not a great defender for how big he is. He's one of those guys where like you look at his frame and like watch him grab a rebound and you're like, okay, this should be one of the 5 best drop coverage defenders in the league. He's not. He just isn't. That's okay. If you get him on vet min to be your backup center, I think that's great value.
Yeah, I do. I just think we saw the importance of just having a big body and rebounding this year. Played for Doc too, if memory serves, because I think he was on the Sixers for a cup of coffee before the Harden deal. Um, but for what you're kind of looking for if you want to change a pace big. A big body that can rim run, give Dame a lob threat, Chris a lob threat,
Yeah.
hell, even Giannis.
Yeah.
I just think you kind of just get something that you never really invested in beyond Brooke and Bobby. I I don't think that's a bad
No.
pull at any means. I
I
would
was
certainly be more interested in like I do think go back to the nepotism well. I do think Kostas Antetokounmpo could be
I've been
interesting.
interested. I've been on this island for years. If all three of them are going to be in the Bucks org at some, or all four of them in the Bucks org at some point, or I'll say it this way: it's unfair to us if the only one of the Antetokounmpos who plays pro basketball that never plays for the Bucks is Costas. I mean, like obviously having Giannis is great. That would be worse, but assuming Giannis is on the team, like no disrespect to Alex or Thanasis, neither of whom are currently signed by the Bucks or Herd. Costas is, I think, the best non-Giannis brother, and I think is a legit like center. I think why is like he's tall enough and he embraced being a center, and he's good at it. Like he has some fun moments. He's switchable. Like I would be interested in that. I don't know if he's two-way eligible anymore. I think not, unfortunately.
Kostas?
Yeah,
I don't think he is because I think
yeah. I
he
think we
has
looked
too
it up
many
recently.
years of
Yeah,
service.
just like one of them was like 6 games, which is too bad.
Yeah.
But if there's a vet min spot, I'd be interested in the.
Oh, he's got 3.
So I think they changed it back, but I'm not totally sure. It seems like it's a little inconsistent. Where's Rohan? The drum and take belongs on Ty's Mount Rushmore of bad takes. I think there's general consensus
We
around
gotta have perspective,
everyone.
people. We gotta have
He's like a
perspective.
good backup center. I
We're not
don't think
talking
Rohan would disagree with that.
we're not talking about like a starter here. We're just talking
Yeah.
about if we're going by the category of change of pace big that Jon Horst talked about draft night with under bad lighting. That is what we're talking about.
Yeah. We need to talk about something because we have no deals.
Yeah,
The only
we're
deal
1 hour in. The biggest
at
news
5 p.m. we got Luke Cornett, and that's all we've got. So that's the only deal announced.
we got more news on players that might be leaving their teams rather than players that have signed.
Yeah. Denver and Russell Westbrook are flirting. So yeah, 1 hour in, one signing. So do we get one more at 6 p.m.? Are we 3 minutes away from the next one?
3 minutes away. We got a Harrison Wynn of DNVR saying yes, the Russell Westbrook to Denver chatter is very real. I believe that's after this morning he said that he did not believe that would be real. But here we are.
Life
This
comes
is where
at
we
you
are,
fast.
folks. I
Comes at you
cannot
fast.
wait for people to be like, this is the time capsule of free agency, and we're just gonna be like, yeah, it sucked. It sucked.
Yeah.
to start.
I'm hoping at some point we get an avalanche, but now I'm not sure. Maybe it'll be later. Maybe we'll have to reconvene at some point in the future to see whatever Milwaukee does. This is very unusual for free agency.
Very.
Okay,
very
Russell Westbrook, $4 million player option. They already see why they shouldn't have dumped Reggie Jackson because that would have been a pretty like for like trade if they tossed a pick on there. He made 5.2.
They did that with packaging three
yeah.
picks too.
I mean, I wonder unless like would they sign and trade KCP? I don't know if that were. I think the Clippers might be too expensive for that. Zeke Naji is ballpark again. I don't know if the Clippers are too expensive for that, but I don't think the Clippers would want him. He's got 4 years left on his deal, and he was basically unplayable last year. Whoops.
Yeah.
So I don't know how they would make that trade possible. I love Fanspo. Like, we'll just not get rid of old rights. On here, the Nuggets love their rights to Richard Jefferson.
Damn right.
44-year-old unrestricted free agent.
ESPN's had a hard time keeping their announcers in the booth. Do you think he's the third one after Doc and Reddick? He just goes,
He's
like,
coming
yeah,
back.
Let's start playing. Let's start playing, guys.
The Nuggets called me up, and I decided, you know what? I'd like to try and get another ring here.
refreshing Jake Fisher's running blog, and there's nothing
No,
new there.
no. I
It's
mean,
so
I guess maybe it's going to be more dependent than we expected on the big movers and shakers.
everybody is complaining about the start of free agency. I'm one of them, but this compares nothing to writing about basketball when basketball is not being played during COVID. The
Oh yeah,
hardest months to write about basketball, but it was still fun. This is a cupcake compared to what that was. It is
yeah.
hard to do as a live stream, but I will still invite this over that.
I mean, yeah, 100%. That was. I still can't believe Rohan and I rewatched the 2019 playoffs. That was a dumb idea. So can Paul George just decide?
I believe the word was that it was gonna be Sunday night. Paul George likes to
Uh,
take his time.
Mark Stein just saying nothing's happened.
There we go.
Thanks, Mark. We know.
Oh, that's funny. This is what's even better is that this is like live for this day of like free agency. There's free agency rumbling starting like before the season begins, and
Yeah.
then when it comes, it's nothing. Like the
It's
big,
usually something.
I know.
This is new. So I saw someone on Twitter doom posting. It's going to be hard to see all these other contenders get their targets and the Bucks don't get anything done. Are you awake? The Celtics got Luke Cornett. That's all that's happened.
Yeah,
That's the good news is the Bucks have not missed out on anyone. You can safely say that
that is
except Luke
true.
Cornett.
Luke Cornett has, I think, what the 11th man on the Celtics this year.
Pretty much.
Yeah. So that's it. We were already in the Luke Cornett business way back when.
I hope to never be in the Luke Cornett business. All right, let me pull back up my list. Who else haven't we talked about yet?
Let's go
How
back
do
to
you feel about Shake Milton?
Oh, he was the big guy. I think when
I
we did
know.
our
Last
free
year.
agency last year,
Yeah.
Ab and I think.
Yeah, I was all in. I was really excited about Oh my god, the Celtics are also keeping Neemias Queta.
Oh my
We got
God!
literally our second deal an hour later is the Celtics keeping their other center.
Don't worry,
Actually,
don't
though,
worry.
actually, I will say Xavier Tillman probably available because that's although maybe the roster 3+ Porzingis because Porzingis is gonna miss time,
That's
but
true.
also Horford. I don't know.
If you needed more confirmation that Russell Westbrook will not play another game with the Clippers, here comes Chris Haynes of Bleacher Report. Clippers are working with Russell Westbrook to find a trade partner that works for both sides and is believed the star has played his last game for the franchise.
Yep. So that's
I
that.
wonder if Russell Westbrook is available.
I'm thinking Russell Westbrook might be available.
He might be available.
Yeah, I do wonder. I do wonder how they then go. How they get him? Like, what's the actual deal? Keith Pompey reports Tobias Harris receiving interest from Pistons, Jazz, Spurs, and Mavericks. So anyone who will pay him.
We got breaking news. We actually have a player changing his team.
What's
Michael
that?
Scott of Hoops Hype is reporting that Philadelphia 76ers and free agent center Andre Drummond have agreed to a 2-year, $10+ million deal. League
Wow.
sources have told Hoops Hype. Player option in year 2.
Did he play for the Sixers at one point?
He did, and then was in the Harden trade.
Oh. Oh, yeah. He tweeted 2 minutes ago, I'm in the mood for a Philly cheesesteak, as someone put in chat.
Well, now Andre Drummond, you're dead to me.
Yeah. That's kind of weird. So there goes Adam Bona playing at all. Year one. I mean, you probably don't want to have him be your backup center, I guess, but
Paul Reed too. What
hey,
is that?
I think I'm guessing they cut him because his
Is
contract
he?
is almost fully non-guaranteed because they didn't make the third round of the playoffs, which is very funny. I don't know if you remember this. Danny Ainge basically pranked Daryl Morey by part of because he signed him to an offer sheet and the Sixers match, but it was like if we make the third round of the playoffs or second round or something, it's fully guaranteed.
Weird.
Drummond look at the picture Shams tweeted everyone. Drummond looks ginormous.
Yeah, he looks
400 pounds in this picture. That is the worst picture they could have used. That's horrible. So we got 3 deals, 3 centers in an hour.
It's a big
plus.
market, literally.
Literally a big market.
Tom Hanks on the freaking piano right now.
What is Xavier Tillman gonna do? Now I gotta put in noties for Scotto too. I'm dry. I'm thirsty. I'm thirsting.
Xavier Tillman, he is a free agent?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, because he was a second-round pick. That's right.
Yep, not going to restricted.
I remember writing about him on the draft, and I was like, he seems interesting.
ZC, how long are we going for, boys? About another hour, I think, here.
Yeah, we'll see.
And we're getting sped up a little bit, so we'll see if. But yeah, if nothing happens, maybe another 30 minutes. Kind of depends. Bunch of fake trades. I guess the Sixers tried to trade for Drummond at the deadline, but couldn't get it done.
That tracks.
Yeah.
Especially with Embiid. Everything going on with Embiid at the time.
It would be very funny if Paul George was willing to sign with the Sixers, but Morey was like, my calculations have deduced that we have a 3% better chance to win the title in the next 3 years if we maintain our flexibility. I don't think that would happen, but it would be very funny if it did.
Also, that is like decent money for Drummond.
It sounds like it's the biannual.
Oh, okay. I was going to say, how much does that eat into their cap space?
Yeah, I assume if it's the biannual, they do it last.
Yeah.
And wait and spend most of their money first. Yeah, the Sixers would not be able to, it looks like, make a big move with an addition to a Paul George. It would be like a pretty small amount of cap space at that point.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my God, somebody shared a 2009 Woj tweet where for some reason he tweeted in all lowercase. This is from 2009 before anyone gets too excited. Hakeem Warwick agreed to 1 year, $3 million deal with Bucks. Agent Bill Duffy tells Yahoo Sports. I did not remember Woj having Nathan Marzion reposted it, retweeted it. I did not remember Woj having an all lowercase phase.
He probably was like, what the hell am I typing on?
Yeah, what's the engagement on this? Assuming it hasn't gotten... That was the third retweet. It had two. It scanned one more. It had 2 retweets when it was originally posted. Hakeem Warwick news was not generating engagement back then.
Jake Fisher with more Drummond in
context. Can the Westbrook trade just happen? I've seen enough tweets about what it would look like.
John with a very funny comment that I will not comment on, but I acknowledge it. Yeah, this is free agency, everybody.
Yeah, it's super fun.
It is super fun.
Would you guys come back if they make a move later? Probably depends how exciting the move is.
Yeah. If it's 5th starter level,
yeah,
kind of sighting, I think that would definitely be it.
The Gary Harris line.
Gary Harris Mendoza line.
Yeah.
Do we not that we need to go long on this either, but considering the Bucks
we might have to.
The Bucks own free agents, do we anticipate anybody being
That's a
in
good
those.
question. Yeah, we should cover that because I saw somebody asked, "Is there any outside of Bev?" I'm gonna assume Jay Crowder's a no. Let's
Yeah,
cross that one off. I think he has realized he has no purpose in Milwaukee finally, and I would not even want him back for the minimum. He
no,
was a frankly a waste of time out there.
yeah,
Thanasis, I have no idea. I mean, the fact that Jim Ozarski, the Milwaukee Journal Sentinel, had a whole thing on like how involved he could be without being signed tells me maybe not right away at least. So we'll see on that front. I mean, obviously that is what it is anyway. Pat Bev, I feel like the longer we go, the least likely it is.
yeah,
I mean, again, that could have been announced at any point after the finals. Like they could have been negotiating, and I mean, like, it's not official, but they could have been negotiating with and announced a new deal for Pat Bev at any point since Game Five, Celtics Mavs. The longer we go, the more likely it feels like it's not going to happen to me. I wouldn't be stunned if it did still, but at this point, I'd probably, if I had to pick one option, I would assume he is gone, and the Bucks maybe go a different, younger direction, maybe with their backup point guard.
oh, sorry. The Bulls. This is from Elias Schuster at Bleacher Nation, which I believe is a Chicago centric site.
Yeah.
The Bulls could have traded Andre Drummond to the
Oh.
76ers at the deadline for 3 second-round picks. They decided not to remain competitive. Now he
Yeah.
goes to Philly, and the Bulls end up with nothing. Just crazy mismanagement by this front office. If we needed more reinforcement that the Bulls front office is
Horrible.
compromised.
Karnashov is probably the worst executive in the league right now.
And it's kind of crazy because I never
So much hype when he got hired.
hype, and I think because he came from Denver, so there's all this kind of like talk about like him be under Tim Connolly, this kind of like really forward thinking front office, and they just spent their money on
And
good
picks.
NBA players, but not like difference makers, and that's it. And they just kind of wallowed ever since. And if you're really thinking about it, the biggest hit that they did, they kind of walked into because DeMar's market when he signed with Chicago was so frozen out. And
Yeah.
everybody's like, oh, he's not this, he's not a difference maker, which you could say there's a ceiling to what he can bring to a team, but it's certainly more than freaking Zach LaVine and Nikola Vucevic, who they gave out these huge money deals to. And yeah, it's just like bad ever since.
Yeah. And the funny thing is, I liked when they went and got Vucevic. I was like, oh, Vucevic and Levine does make sense. They gave up a bit to go sign DeRozan, but I think it was crazy. Lonzo, that one's just kind of unlucky. I mean, he
Yeah,
should
that
be a
that is
valuable
also
role
the
player.
other thing too.
But I don't think they would. They're not contending with for titles, even with they have Lonzo the whole time, as we saw.
Yeah.
I think their issue has been just it's like this one again. This is a smaller example, but like DeRozan, they probably lose for nothing. Drummond, they lost for nothing. Caruso, at least they got Giddy, who obviously opinions are split, and there's a lot going on with Josh Giddy, but you get a young prospect. You get something back at least. But they keep
Yeah.
losing guys for nothing, and now you're reading reports that like they would give up a pick to get off Levine. I would just never do that if I was the Bulls. What's the
Yeah,
point? What's the
that would
upside?
be
Like
incredibly stupid.
rehab his value. Rehab him and his value. Like let him play and see. Is can he if he has a good season, someone will bite on Zach LaVine. If he can stay healthy for the year, like be very careful with him. Keep him at 30 minutes a game. Don't have him playing back to backs, whatever. But I like why would you ever? You're not competing. What's the rush?
Yeah.
What do you open up for yourself by giving up draft assets, which you're already low on? Orlando owns
Yep.
your draft because you wanted. Which again, I'm not gonna kill him for the Vucevic trade. I thought it was fine. But I would never give up assets to get off a contract if I suck. I would rehab. If you can give them away, then maybe, but I wouldn't even want to do that. I want something. Like, why would
Well,
you
I think
take Chris Paul and Like, you just to try and get something for Wiggins later, I guess? Like, break it up into two smaller contracts?
I think for them too is that they're always just kind of in the middle of these because it's the big market. It's the Bulls. You know what I mean? Like they kind of are a magnet
Yep.
for attention like this, and they're in rumors, but they're not like when they actually get to making moves, they're not great.
No, I mean that
You
was the
know,
first trade they'd made in like 3 years.
3 years. The Lonzo thing, I mean, we kind of just did it as like a footnote, but like that has really handicapped them, and they lost the pick for that because that was telegraphed from uh pre new CBA, like weeks before free agency started that year. But yeah, not having him just be on the floor for 2 years, going to be three, is a rough scene. Um, but yeah, they're just not a good franchise, and it's I don't understand. Don't understand it.
Oh, hold on. There was a Gary Harris tweet, but I don't know about the source. It was 4 hours ago. Just interest from teams. They said taxpayer mid-level, which would be out of the Bucks price range, but this is not from a reporter with no source attached, so I'm just gonna ignore it. We'll see about Gary. Shout out to having 100 people in here. Nothing has happened.
Yeah,
Kevin Porter Jr. 2-year deal with the Clippers. Thank God. I did not want to be in the Kevin Porter Jr.
Oh
business.
wow.
They are stacking them up now. They
Yeah,
also got Kai Jones, who didn't do anything as bad as Kevin Porter Jr. But
and
the
Josh
Clippers are not.
Primo.
The Clippers are not afraid of, what's the most charitable way? Um, Flammable personalities, controversial signings. Think about KPJs. I'm just not sure he's actually that good.
I think he's talented. I think there's just a lot that
I mean, I don't think he should be playing in the league right now. It's
no,
not alleged with.
no.
I mean, he reached a plea agreement for a reckless assault misdemeanor. So I think that is, if you're completing a court-ordered program, I think you can pull the alleged off.
Yeah,
Oh, then
that's it.
after the court-ordered program, his plea will move to not guilty with no criminal record. So not alleged, but then later alleged again. I don't know how the translation works on that. With a
Yeah,
player
that's
option. So I wonder if that's a minimum.
that's rough. That's yeah.
Yeah, I don't think it's ever been easy to root for the Clippers, but this new thing, like them becoming the Dallas Cowboys of the NBA, like it's got to make it even less easy.
Yeah, that's actually a good comparison. That does,
Yeah.
yeah, because it's very Greg Hardy. It was with a WNBA player. I believe she just got cut by the Chicago Sky. I cannot
Yeah.
pronounce her name to save my life,
I
but
I don't I need to look it up because I don't know either.
yeah, it was not that long ago, and he's back in the league. That's a
Yeah.
rough look right there.
Um, but also I think just putting everything the disgust aside, which is hard to do, just like the last archetype to I mean, he'd be like a bench scorer, like just give me Eric Gordon.
Yeah, I look 6 weeks of strong play in Greece in April and May. That's all you need. six
That's
weeks.
what'll do it. It's got to be a minimum, right? It must be.
He's got a player option on the second year though.
Yeah,
That
that's
that could
pretty
be
standard.
that looks like minimum.
Oh, it's a player option. Oh yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, that's how you get the minimum. Oh, he's with Rock Nation Sports. Great insight there. I'm looking up the Greece numbers. I want to see if they're lying. We got nothing going on. Why is this a graph? He had some big scoring games. Averaged 22 per game, 56% from two, but only 27% from three and 60% from free throw. 9 rebounds, nearly 7 assists, but 4 turnovers. Yeah, see, it's even in Greece, the profile to me is not that of a productive NBA playoff player.
Yeah. Well, they'll live with that one.
There was
That
there was like, was it not like a real rumor, but like Twitter rumors that he was working out with the Bucks, or someone saw him in
there
Milwaukee. I
was
saw at some
some
point.
there was some like I don't know if that was recent. I remember like a couple years ago him being like a someone affiliated with like a Bucks trade rumor
Yeah. Well, I mean,
before
the Bucks did trade him once.
That is true.
Or
Yeah,
no.
with the draft.
Yeah, they did. They traded him to the Cavs. Yeah.
Yeah, if
I was
you
gonna say, was it just a Bucks pick? But I think or did they actually? They sent that pick, I think, right? Like on draft day. It wasn't
it what he
previously sent.
was, if memory serves, that pick was used in the Tony Snell dump to
Yes.
Detroit. So if you look up Bucks draft picks, Kevin Porter Jr.'s name is obviously
Yeah.
associated with the Bucks, but
31st overall pick, I think.
um,
First in the first round.
it also is just weird too. I guess I mean, it's not a matter of talent with Porter Jr., but does it really? You're possibly losing Paul George. You're actively trying to trade Russell Westbrook, so your second best player. Say what you want to say about Russell Westbrook, but he had varying levels of importance to the Clippers over the years. I just wonder. I don't get what is going on with that team
No,
and
it's
what
very
they.
weird. They're in a very weird spot.
And it's like they just brought back Lou, which is the right decision. As much as I do think he's overbuilt this like coaching genius, just because
Yeah.
I don't think that. I think all coaches, even the best ones, like Spo is the god tier. Joe Mazzulla has made his case as much as I begrudgingly have to accept it.
Yeah.
Um, but like, I just don't kind of get what they're thinking with the Paul George thing. The weird kind of standoff going on.
Yeah. I feel like I would just give him the extra year. It seems like they don't want to give him more than they gave Kawhi. He plays way more than Kawhi. Like, I would rather just not lose him because you have no flexibility. Like, if Paul George walks, maybe you have your MLE, cool. So now you have Harden, still pretty good. I mean, not obviously an MVP anymore, but productive point guard who you can't trust in the playoffs entirely, but that's most players. You have
Yeah,
Kawhi, which, I mean, what does he even look like on the court anymore? It's been we another playoffs lost. It sucks, but that's just kind of been the story. And then you have a bunch of cretin people that you keep signing, who none of whom have proven they can be good NBA players yet. But at least you're turning over every stone and adding creeps and people no one wants to root for. Which I was gonna say, power to you, power from you. That sucks to do. I'm not a fan of that at all. And
yeah.
then we're gonna get rid of Russ. Yeah, we have Zubats. That's exciting. Haha, Lakers, you guys gave up on Zubats too early. That's our big win. You have Clipped, the funniest
They,
show ever, just because of the actors.
they got Terrence Mann. Terrence Mann might be like their. I don't. Harden. Harden is just what he is, especially come playoff time.
Yeah.
It's like this roster. It just seems, as much as we can play about the Bucks having an old roster by the end of
Oh yeah,
last
PJ
season,
Tucker. Forgot about
did,
PJ.
and he just picked up his option.
I mean, he should have picked that. He could have picked that up a year ago.
He could,
We all knew.
we knew what the game was.
I can tell you exactly how much PJ Tucker hates the Clippers. It's
Oh
at
yeah,
least $1 less than whatever that player option is worth.
Price is right at it.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, just a weird roster. I just like ambition wise. If you're grading by ambition, I do just think they now with that new arena, the Toilet Dome.
Yeah.
Um, I wonder how they'll be. The Clippers having their own arena, which I don't believe they
Probably
used
not
to
since
have
San
one like in the
Diego.
90s.
San Diego or in LA?
They had one in LA, but there's a reason. Let's just say there's a reason why they went to Staples, and obviously
Yeah.
Donald Sterling was the owner then, so
Oh
you
yeah.
could imagine why he did that.
Yeah.
But they're gonna have to live on their own, and we'll see how that goes.
Yeah, I mean, if Kawhi continues to miss time with this Western Conference, they could finish outside of 10th if they don't make a
Yep.
big. If they lose Paul George, I mean, if they lose Paul George, it's like so. If with games without Kawhi, it's like what Harden, Kevin Porter Jr., Terrence Mann, Ivica Zubats, whatever they get back for Russ, which I assume is not going to be very much. Oh, we got
We got
something?
news. We got
What
news.
what is it? I didn't
Jeff
get a noti.
Zilgett of
Oh my god.
USA Today.
You're finding new
Contavious
people every time.
So, Contavious Caldwell-Pope leaving the Denver Nuggets and headed to the Orlando Magic on a 3-year deal, I'm told.
Okay, that could actually get the ball moving.
That's the big domino right there that we need.
That is a big domino actually because now that I assume takes Orlando out of Paul George and out
Out
of
of
Klay
Clay.
Thompson. And then there's like the ripple from there of anyone else waiting on Orlando, see whatever money they have left, what exceptions, things like that. But that it's a big money
Ooh.
suitor, even if not a serious suitor, is now gone for two of the big free
Orlando's
agents.
gonna be there. Oh, I'm not gonna look. I don't like playing Orlando because they are already a really good defensive team.
Yeah.
Now you add another high level defender who's going to be on Dame exclusively in 4 regular season games and maybe a
Yeah.
playoff series. That's going
Actually,
to be
it might still be Suggs. It's not as scary because like they already have top line defenders. I mean, I know it makes them
Celtics.
more. No, the Magic.
Oh, Suggs. Yeah, yeah. You're right.
Suggs,
You're right.
yeah, yeah.
Yep.
But it makes it like it's just harder to hide now. I think they're a very complete team. Here's an interesting question: what happens with Fultz?
Weird. I don't. I
You,
don't know. I think he's a productive player, but Suggs, you're a year away from paying,
yep,
and he always felt like even when he got drafted there, it felt like he would be like the Ricky Rubio effect of taking a couple years to really blossom into obviously what he is now. I think you have to move on from him, but I wouldn't feel confident that like
yeah, I think
you're
he's on
still
the way
moving on
out.
from a good player, even
Like
if he's
I
situationally dependent.
could he run out of a market? So Rohan put Fultz to Milwaukee soon. I've been thinking about this. Like he's
Is
a
he straight up
defensive
is he
first.
straight up a free agent or a
I
trade
think he
candidate?
is straight up a free agent. So yeah, like if there's no offers, and honestly, like I could see there being a world where there's not many offers. He's a very unique player. He's very hard to fit in
Yeah.
the modern game. Like you just put him next to Dame, have him just defend his ass off. He can handle the ball in second units a little bit, not a ton, but a little bit. Like can he like screen? Can he do some short roll stuff? That's interesting to me. I'm interested by the concept.
I think he obviously the shooting concerns are what they are.
Yep.
There's no getting away or like getting around that.
Yep.
Um, I would think having a very long arm defender who could really kind of engage into like building out his skill set despite not being a plus shooter is intriguing. Like it is just kind of, more of the Andre Jackson Jr. kind of mold,
Yeah.
but I wouldn't hate it. I think some people would look at, it's Markel Fultz. He's the first overall pick. Everything that he went through in Philadelphia, it already kind of attracts that attention. But you got to take things for what they give
Ooh.
you.
3 years,
Look at,
66 million for KCP.
I wonder if that's fully guaranteed or player
I
option.
bet it is. I think that's how you get him. Oh, player option maybe. No mention of it yet.
Let's see.
I like the get for Orlando. And you know what I like about it for Orlando is they didn't wait and lose KCP to someone else because they're like, "Oh, we can maybe get Paul George." Frankly, they probably can't. I mean, they're getting a meeting allegedly. They probably can't get Paul George. Like and
I
I
think,
think they know that.
yeah.
Take the good player who complements your core well. It doesn't, 22 million, ish in a couple of years is not going to be very much. Like it's not going to stop you from re-signing the rest of your guys. You're going to be able to trade him if you have to. I really like that for Orlando.
And it's just like you're not getting stuck into the big. I mean, KCP is in this free agent class is a
Big
higher
win.
tier. That's a big
Yeah.
win, and they can still they're still making taking those next steps into playing,
Yep.
into contender or
I
becoming a
mean, they
contender at
just
least.
needed more competent two-way guys. They had a lot of competent one-way guys,
Yep.
but the two-way guys are what really pull a team together. I mean, you can drop KCP, especially with their kind of weird team, on literally any lineup. I mean, they're big, they defend. Like, he can play with any group of those guys. So I really like it for them. I think they're still without the key ball handler, and maybe you just hope another year of development and, like, Franz and Paulo can do it themselves. Maybe they can. I mean, I don't know. Suggs taking any leap offensively would be nice, but I think they probably still need that offensive player, but I think this year they could just go ahead with this and be a better version of what they were last year, which was a solid playoff team.
Mm-hmm.
And if Franz or Paulo comes out, it's like, oh, that's the most improved player, and they're suddenly like an apex guy, then you're probably contending because they have a really nice deep team, a lot of good bench players.
Also, just a winner.
Yeah,
He he's now leaving. He left LA after winning a title.
I
We
saw. Go ahead.
yeah, the Russell Westbrook time is a flat circle.
Yep, yep. The Harrison Fagan tweet of like you cannot give up on KCP for Russ a year after your failed title defense or
I'm
whatever.
starting to worry about Denver too.
Oh yeah. I
I
mean,
think
this is
they've
horrible for them, by the way. This is really bad for Denver. They don't have much spending power either. And their GM, Calvin Booth, I think is just like a blustering fool, to be totally frank. The stuff he says to the media, I think is insane stuff to say. Does it help you lose KCP when you go out and publicly say, "Oh, we can just slot in Christian Brown"? I think it doesn't help you keep him. I'll say that.
does not.
I
I
just
like
think
it
that's
for the.
crazy.
I like it for we need more kind of just like stand on your convictions. Even though I would say, well, I don't agree with you. You know
No,
what I
I
mean?
think he was wrong last year about Bruce Brown too. He's like, "Oh, we got guys who can
Yes.
step up. Bruce Brown's not even that good or whatever." You get bumped in the playoffs. Now you say the same thing about KCP, who was a starter, not your bench player. So now your team is Jokic, Murray. Okay, great start. MPJ, player option for KCP per Shams. So he got the
Mm,
player option in year three. So I assume he will not opt out, but who knows? Maybe he'll still be good from then.
yeah.
Um, so yeah, you have your core four of Jokic, Murray, Michael Porter Jr., and Aaron Gordon, which is a great core four players. And then you're starting like either Peyton Watson or Christian Brown, or maybe they sign someone. We'll see. Maybe can they go get Gary Harris back? I'm not sure.
Also, side note, if we're hoping for Gary Harris kind of thing, KCP go in there probably takes them out of retaining him.
Yeah, makes
A
it a lot less likely.
semi-starter for the Magic last year. He started 27 games. Had the let me look it up.
And they took the team option on Ingles, I think, too,
Did
right?
they? I thought I saw they declined it.
Or they declined to negotiate. Let me look that up.
That might be what it was. Gary Harris had the seventh most minutes on the Magic last year.
Oh, they did decline. You're right. And Mo Wagner, but they're going to negotiate with Wagner, and they may with Ingles too.
Ingles, but yeah, he might just be bouncing around at every contender now.
Yeah, I don't. I mean, since they even declining it, they still have the non-bird rights. They could give him pretty much as they want up to what he made last year. So I would still assume he stays there over going somewhere. I mean, if he gets another like 2 year, 20 million deal with some other team, I'll be shocked. But
Yeah,
something about Joe Ingles teams love, I guess.
yeah. Um, but I think the Nuggets thing it just shows you like after they won that title and everybody's like, well, they're gonna be the next dynasty. It shows you how quickly things change. Everybody's talking about that with the Celtics now, but your best start like center option, or I would say with Kristaps, he's out until October, but that's going to linger on in the season. Injuries, it's just so hard to reclaim that title again, and
Yep.
yeah,
Yeah, that's tough for the Nuggets. They don't have a real way to replace him, I don't think.
mm-hmm.
Yeah, Suggs, KCP is a nice defensive backcourt. They're going to be a
Very,
problem. Scotto just now with the KCP deal. A little late. It's like 2 minutes. Oh, no, it's a good 5 minutes after the number first came out. Never mind. I don't feel bad about saying that now. 27 minutes, Jordan. Do we get a Bucks move in that time? The wheels are turning here.
the wheels are turning, but I don't know. We have seen some minimum signings more than I thought, but that's also compared to the few big signings that we've seen outside of KCP. Maybe they squeeze in there, but I would probably say no. I wonder if it kind of my money would be the first Bucks thing, even if it means Malik Beasley going on somewhere. Probably tomorrow
Oh yeah,
morning.
yeah.
I'm gonna say tomorrow morning is the first
I'm an optimist. I'm holding out hope for tonight, but we'll see.
one. Hmm.
I do think there's probably like a mini cluster whenever Paul George decides, which I think Mavericks are still in play as some sort of a sign and trade thing. Sixers, of course, and then probably still the Clippers. Orlando's now out of that.
I would have to assume.
Yeah, I think that's the end. They couldn't give Paul George a max now. That's all their cap space.
Yeah.
I had to look if the Brewers were actually playing again, thanks to John and Rohan. So good job, you guys. I was like, we could talk about that. At least we'll have something to talk about that's going on. Yeah, still no word on Donovan Mitchell. That's a big one.
Let me see what else. Refreshing the Yahoo Sports running blog. Nothing there.
Rohan's looking for the LeBron min to Milwaukee. I don't know about that. Where was I on my list? We talked about Shake, an interesting
Talk about Shake. Yeah,
flyer.
Shake would be interesting. Though I will say,
Probably wouldn't start him.
no, I think he has more of an uphill climb to. Also, Doc, he did play under Doc too.
Yeah, yeah, that's a great call. That makes it more likely because I think he did play more. He didn't play much for. Oh, what do we got? Haynes. Just KCP again. We got all the details now. Have some self awareness, guys. There's an edit button. Would be an interesting bench piece, kind of instead of probably an Eric Gordon.
Yeah.
Gary Harris we talked about. Xavier Tillman we talked a little bit. Just like a little undersized, not a great offensive player, but a young, athletic, springy, defensive big, pretty stout. That would be fun. Dennis Smith Jr. is the other one of the other defensive minded point guards that I think younger,
Similar
more
to,
athletic than Pat Bev.
similar to Fultz too. Not as long,
Yeah,
but super athletic. And also, I'll give him more credit. He really has bought into the, not being living up to the hype of being a lottery pick, but found his way, played on some rebuilding teams, found his role as like a good energy, like defender,
yeah,
which that was more than what a lot of people could say for him coming out of college.
yeah,
Um, yeah, I'm intrigued with him there. Again, shooting is a concern. Never really displayed being a good shooter, but kind of has these games where he can get you at least like double digit scoring, which doesn't sound like a lot, but when you need it's helpful.
The Bucks have had some dry bench games recently, so yeah, that's definitely helpful. That would be a fun flyer with real potential, I think.
Hmm.
Um, Nick Batum, who I didn't know if would be really available, but sure sounds like he is. He is going to be, so that's interesting. I mean, I think you fall into the real risk of another boss man scenario. Like maybe he just ages out of it right in front of you. Like one injury could like kind of derail the whole season, but that's true for any player. Had a really nice, useful year. Was very important to a good Sixers team. So that I'd be very happy if they signed. I wouldn't want to start him, but would be a great bench depth. Another good guy for the young players to learn from. We talked about Eric Gordon, Javante Green. Can I interest you in Javante Green
Oh,
flying around?
I like I didn't understand he didn't get signed until very late
Dude, he
last
was
year.
floating around, yeah, until like the last couple months. I couldn't believe that's a good bench defensive forward. Oh, Torrey
Yeah,
Craig, I need to take off my list too. Torrey Craig opted in. Or maybe I
he
already
was
did
just
that.
playing in the G League all last year, and then this Bulls signed him with like 3 weeks left to go.
Yeah, it was like it's funny because it always shows like the value of the last deal on these free agent things, and his was like 1 year, like 36K or something. I was
Yeah.
like, damn. I think he'd be a nice, obviously not a starter, but a nice like energy, defensive, athletic. I mean, he plays like the four. He's only 6'4", but he has a huge wingspan. He
Hmm.
rated well on my Derek Jones Jr. matrix, except for height, of course, but has shot the three very well in limited sample, actually. And
Yeah.
is athletic. Like, he'd be a fun player to add.
He'd be a
Jetty,
better. He honestly is a better Torrey Craig in my mind.
yeah, I think he might be. He's at least more, like, athletically active, if that makes sense.
Hmm.
Can I interest you in Jetty Osman? The younger, hotter version, the new model of Pat Connaughton in some ways? A
I
lot
have
less
liked
athletic.
the idea of Shetty Osman versus what he has been, but he also is like,
I
again,
feel like he's a better player to look at Basketball Reference than to look at the tape, I think.
yes, he does. I feel like he's also profiles as a Bucks killer, where he just hits these like
Mm.
threes, and
Like
everybody's like,
we're
"Why is
remembering
Shetty
him
Osman
higher. Yeah.
killing us tonight?" Kind of thing.
It's
Um,
fun. It's pronounced Jetty, I
it's
believe.
Jetty.
Yeah, it's pronounced Jetty. So you do like some Return of the Jedi stuff.
Oh, there we go.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah,
he's
the numbers
averaged
dropped off with the Spurs, but he continued to shoot. He actually shot the ball better than ever last year.
over his career against the Bucks. They are
Mm.
one of the, let me see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Okay, so like third, a third of the league. He's averaged over 10 points a game over his career. The Bucks are one of them. There you go.
Love that checks out. Yeah,
I
his
love that we're,
numbers were down, but yeah, I know we're talking about Jetty. A weirdly bad free throw shooter, which is kind of concerning.
yeah.
Under 70% the last 3 seasons. Now I don't know if I buy his shooting. I'm actually going to
I
move him
think
down.
that, I honestly think that checks out because if that Spurs game that they played in San Antonio, where it was on TNT, and Wemby like blocked Giannis, and like it was this crazy game. I think it was
Yeah,
one of Griffin's last games,
yeah.
and Osman missed like 2 free throws in like the clutch.
That's just weird. Like from a forward who's known as a shooter, it's very bizarre.
Mm-hmm.
You almost never see that. So now I question because he has not shot this well before. Maybe he's not actually a good shooter. Who's a kind of funky one? DeLon Wright.
Oh, I've always been a DeLon Wright guy. I think
I would like him.
he's a good ball mover, good
He's,
defender.
you know what he? I would watch Miami in the playoffs. He was very comfortable pulling up from three in a way I didn't really expect based on his profile. I think he's really adapted his game to the modern NBA.
Yeah, I don't. I mean, it's a good shot in the dark. I think he is also in that same, even with like some pull up game, it is the spacing concerns with like him, Fultz, and Smith do exist. But
Yeah,
if you want, and Chris Dunn too, but like if you want more of a defensive minded guy, you're gonna have to go after those kind of guys and live with
yeah.
what they give you.
Yeah, I think for the backup slash potential start with Dame guards or point guards, I still think Dunn is a home run. I mean, Fultz would be a home run if only because they only have minimum. Like fit wise, it's not, but like a player of that caliber on vet min is just a crazy deal. So you take that if you can get it. The other
Yeah.
guys to me are more like they're imperfect players. I probably see them coming off the bench, which the Bucks could use that. Aaron Holiday, does Aaron Holiday interest you?
I think he's a good player. I don't know, but you also need a point guard.
Yeah, just again to come off the bench. He was
I think I would still probably be more interested in his brother, not named Drew. I think I would
Justin.
think he's interesting, but
I'm worried about the age with Justin. He was good for the Nuggets though when they needed him in the playoffs. Aaron shot the three ball very well the last couple of years. The issue is he's like 6 foot
he's
flat.
yeah, he's very small.
So it's like strictly again, it's backup point guard only, which is we've talked about with like the draft and other situations. It's just a very limited role, unless Dame and if Dame goes down, it's like whatever, we're probably cooked anyway. At least long term, it's nice to have a good backup point guard, but it's not probably a position that's going to factor a ton in the playoffs.
Yeah.
We talked about Precious, Tyus Jones. I'm just like not that interested for that same
No,
reason. Like he doesn't give you any defense.
no, small.
Yeah,
Also, I don't think he's that good of a shooter either.
no. On ball, I mean, he killed the Bucks with floaters, but same with Monty Morris, who I think is even smaller than Tyus Jones. It's just like I'm not interested in these like pound the ball backup point guards. It just doesn't. You have Giannis, Chris, and Dame. Like you don't really need that. I'd rather have a connective tissue player.
There's also been a lot of like he might get like Emily money this year, which like
That's
more
crazy to
power
me.
to the team and signing him to that or
Yeah,
signing and trading for him for that because that seems ludicrous to me. But what do I
yeah.
know?
You know a lot, Jordan.
Thank you.
This is how far we are down on the list. Can I interest you in Lamar Stevens?
I like him. but he might be like a non. The fact that the Cavs had to leapfrog from him to Strus and who's their other kind of wing guy.
I mean, they have a Coro. They picked up
I
Niang.
I I'm very interested to see what happens with the Coro.
Yeah, just sitting there in restricted free agency
RFA.
right now. Yeah. Yeah, the
Cavs been,
Bulls getting the Pat Williams deal done. Kind of surprised. I thought a team would offer.
boom,
5 years, 90 mil is a lot for a guy who's like, I don't know what his best skill is.
boom. That was rough. That's gonna be
Yeah.
tough. I think from Chicago's perspective, it just does. I mean, it's a tradable contract, I guess,
If he's
but
good, or at least
if he's good,
average.
but that's really brother.
That's a
Oh,
lot of years.
that's
The
a
per
lot of
year is
years.
not bad, but that's a lot of years that add up.
Yeah, and then also isn't Kobe White an RFA? Because
No, they got hit. They got that done. I
did they
think.
extend him?
I think they had extended him previously.
That's might be one of their best pieces of business in a while.
Yeah, seriously. Dasunmu is. Oh no, he signed too. Yeah, Kobe got 3 years, 36 million. Dasunmu is under contract. That's right. Last year he wasn't. And the people were like, oh, could the Bucks sneak in there? And they could not. The problem with Lamar Stevens is rookie year, 16% from three, then 27, then 31, then last year just 30%. Was actually at 35% with Boston, but on really tiny volume. And then with Memphis was back to like 29. So it's just like I'd probably rather just play Andre Jackson Jr. in almost any scenario.
Yeah, we're kind of getting into that territory. I think that
Yeah, it's just like what do
the
you actually
present
add over the
options.
current guys? Yeah.
Um, not that we needed more context of this, but Tony Jones, who kind of moonlights for both the Jazz and the Nuggets for the Athletic, he said that Denver offered KCP a salary pretty similar to what he had getting from Orlando, and I'm told the Nuggets offered 3 years. The Nuggets definitely tried here, which is what you love to hear.
Good for them. Market. There was a tweet about Marcus Morris from an aggregator account, and then Markeith Morris quote tweeted and said, "Every team needs high-level, proven vets that can play." That's true. Good for them.
They're chasing the bag.
Uh,
Um, can I
Carl
can I
asks, "Are you interested in Wiseman?"
did I watch some James Wiseman clips today? Like a
Come on.
sicko? Yes, I did. Am I interested in him? No.
No, I don't think he knows enough things to do. That's kind of where I'm at with Sadiq Bey too. Like I just don't know if he does things that actually help good teams enough. And again, at this point, like Sadiq Bey maybe is talented enough that I would try it, but I'm a little. I just don't know.
Also,
KPJ confirmed at Vetman.
bad timing with his ACL that I don't know how much he would help come playoff
Yeah, it
time.
sounds like he might be out a lot of that season, which also is just like brutal for him. It sucks, but makes it a lot less appealing to a team like the Bucks.
Yes. Um,
But yeah,
can
Wiseman,
I
I'm out.
can I and we're gonna throw out a name that
Okay.
I'm gonna regret just doing, but
Oh
hey,
boy.
we have nothing else doing.
Yep.
Gordon Hayward.
I've really thought about this one. Such a bad year with OKC.
Really bad.
Um, but could he be that Eric Gordon kind of player? Perhaps. I've seen the point people make of, like, I don't know if he's good enough that you don't even want to give Doc the option to play him over the young guys. And I kind of agree with that. I think there's a chance that signing would really work out well for them, but I think there's probably more chance it doesn't.
Um, I like the theoretical fits. I just don't know if Gordon Hayward is that player anymore. It should be noted that he did not score any points in his 46 minutes during either playoff series that the Thunder were in this year,
Yeah.
which is truly remarkable. Not that he
I
was like
mean,
a focal point, but
but
Andrew
he
might be
went from he
saying
was
it proud.
14, 4, and 4 in 32 minutes with Charlotte. Shot 36% from three, nearly 50% from two. You look at that and you're like, what team couldn't use that guy off the bench? He played 26 games, over 17 minutes per game in OKC, 5 points. Like, it's just he couldn't, and that's regular season.
Yeah.
As you mentioned, did not score, had, what is this, one total assist in the playoffs? 3 assists in 7 games, 46 minutes. His only shots were threes. He missed, or no, they weren't, so there were only twos. He missed all three. No turnovers, 13 rebounds. Like, he was just there in a really concerning way. Like, in a way that makes you feel like I think good teams will stay away because it's like, okay, you're having trouble scaling down your role, and we're not playing you 33 minutes. Like, it's just not going to happen.
Yeah, and it's like I felt like the OKC trade was a nice trade for them and for him because like he's not a focal point. Like he could give you a little bit of scoring there, on ball, off ball. The versatility is like just by being a big body and can play either forward spot just gives you some minutes there. But like
Yeah.
he just might not have enough confidence anymore that he could
Yeah, it seemed
be a
like that was
positive
really a
contributor.
problem. I mean, could the Bucks maybe bring him in and, the supportive culture and have him feel good and maybe get more? Maybe. Maybe. But I wouldn't be that excited about it.
Yeah.
Elliot says it too. Like, I want vets the Bucks to pick up to be undisputably better than the young guys, or at least more consistent. I added that, but I agree.
Yeah.
Yeah, Sloth says Hayward would shoot 66% from three against the Bucks in the playoffs, but would be terrible for Milwaukee. That sounds right.
Yeah. Got 10 minutes left. I'm refreshing. I'm seeing what's going on.
I don't even know if we're gonna get one more deal. And I've seen a lot of it in the chat. Like the Bucks are sleeping. The Bucks aren't adding. It seems like no one's really getting much done.
The NBA is.
Yeah. I mean, again, if you look at the targets list, the optimistic targets list that I came up with and Rohan did, we talked about ours. The top 14 players I listed are still here.
Yeah.
Like, it's not like there's guys going off the board left and right. That none of these mid-tier or lower players are being signed at all. And then Josh Richardson opted into his player option. So he wasn't signed today. He just opted in.
Yep.
You go down to 28, and all of those players are available except Josh Richardson because he opted in. So it's not like the guys we wanted for the Bucks are getting snatched up and they're not doing anything. It's just there's very little movement so far.
Yep.
I mean, literally, the only players on my list that I've read it out are they either re-signed with their team or they opted into a player option or a team option for.
Yeah, I was gonna say
Jason
the only
Tate.
people that have changed teams are KCP and Drummond.
Yeah, which Drummond should have been on my list, so that would be one, but I forgot to include him. He would have been a nice cheap pickup. I am surprised. I wonder how many people like us are doing these live shows right now. Just like, damn, really? At least if Orlando people are doing one, it paid off.
I mean, ESPN, the Athletic Stadium.
Yep.
Outside of us podcast folk.
Yeah,
they're all kind of a lot of time to fill. A lot of time. We're basically just doing an episode of NBA Today.
Yeah, how many LeBron Lakers segments have been on ESPN so far?
Jesus Christ.
We're gonna cut live to Bronny's workout.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, from a Bucks perspective, it's quiet out there.
Yeah,
but they do. Maybe it's a matter of reading the room, and once the floodgates open, whether it's a big decision, the KCP thing probably. I don't think that spurs on like a huge flood.
Yeah, I thought it might lead to something. Yeah,
but it does show you that a lot of the links, like the Magic being linked to Clay and PG, kind of show that those two holding cards dictates where the rest of this goes, kind of thing.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's gonna probably be, I think, PG at this point now. It seems.
What do you think? He just goes to Philadelphia?
I don't know.
There seems to be too much smoke that
I still feel like there's a solid chance that he re-signs with the Clippers. even though that hasn't been talked about. Because I mean, if they come to the same conclusion of us, it's just like, what are we doing here without Paul George? I mean, they can always pay him more than any other team, and it sounds like they don't want to. But I mean, we'll see if that stance changes when you're staring down the Harden, Kawhi, KPJ trio going forward with Kawhi's injury status and Harden's too. I mean, Harden's struggled with some stuff as well, and it's just not that same caliber of player night to night. So I mean, I would obviously prefer if he went out west somewhere. You know, you don't want Philly to get better.
That's what I was gonna say. From a Bucks perspective, you don't want one of their direct competitors, even though they have not played in the playoffs since the '80s, or sorry, since the 2001 conference finals.
Yep, there you
go. You don't want to see them get better.
Yeah. So the Mavs, I think, could still. I think the Mavs are still an option.
I do wonder what's going on there. I think they're
very ambitious for a team that was just in the finals, and I get it. Like they clearly were worse and need to add, but very, very ambitious.
I like it. I do wonder the Derrick Jones stuff.
Yeah.
He's a good player. I just wonder if it's just a matter of having a long arm defender who played well in the playoffs and hit shots at important moments during the series. I just wonder if they're relying on him way too much. The Klay Thompson stuff also, like, he's a good player even with athletic concerns. He can still give you kind of a bump, but that offense doesn't need that. I don't know. They're kind of in this.
Yeah, like if they're 1, 2, 3, it's Kyrie, Klay, Luka. It's a lot harder to defend.
Yeah.
If they get PG though, I'm assuming it costs some of their core players. That's a pretty compelling team.
Yeah.
Because it's like the star power. It's like basically it's you know what it is. It's the idea of the Clippers. But if Kawhi was just a one-way, like just Kawhi on offense, but he actually showed up, which is like a pretty damn good team. But that's pretty much they're just moving it over and saying, all right, we don't need Kawhi's defense. We'll let Luka do the offense, and we'll just cover for him defensively. That's very good to me. The Klay thing doesn't. I don't know if it really moves the needle as much. It helps him, but
yeah. Oh.
I think it looks like this is going to be it. I mean, we'll see. Watch 7:01 p.m. Milwaukee Bucks have signed. I feel like that's always how it happens. But we will. If there's a starter level player added, we'll find a way to be back live soon.
Yeah.
Or at least record a pod, one or the other. Is this even a podcast?
I don't know. I think the time capsule of just like the start of free agency.
Yeah.
Opening and nothing happening. Oh, wait. That's just a personal notification.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I wonder if this will be a great time capsule, but I don't think a lot of people will go back and be like, what are they talking about for 2 hours? But I don't know if this will translate after the fact to audio. Yeah, that might be.
It's just 2 hours of us like, something's going to happen, right?
Do not post this, LMO Johnson.
Yeah, chat, sound off. Would you be disappointed if you turned on the newest GSPN Bucks episode and it was our audio for 2 hours trying to manifest stuff that didn't happen? I've been thinking about this for like the last 10 minutes.
Fair question.
Yeah. We'd have to, and I don't want to do this, so I don't think we will, but yeah, I was going to say, like a super cut of like the 4 times things happen. It's like a 10-minute episode.
I love these responses already.
Yeah.
We've had people come in and thank you for spending your late Sunday evening with us with nothing.
It's still got 100 people just watching us go, oh, here's a guy's name.
Lottie Walker, thoughts?
I mean, there was like a real Jetty Osman back and forth at one point. That's how dry this is.
It was a good back and forth.
Yeah, it was. We got somewhere there. I'm dropping them on my list if I ever update. 2 minutes.
I mean, honestly, we'll be talking about these players if it keeps like this for the next day or two.
Yeah.
once the market opens up here.
Now I wonder, like, is there ever going to be a point this free agency where there's the surge now, or is it going to be spread out?
Hmm.
Like, I don't know if we're going to get the typical, like, I don't, maybe it's like Paul George, and then like 10 minutes after we get like five more, but I'm not sure now. This is very it's like baseball.
I feel
It's
like
very
I'm
anticlimactic.
gonna say, not that I need to guess when he's gonna sign,
Yeah.
but I'm just gonna say I feel like the Paul George thing is gonna be a late night thing.
Mm. Like overnight, late night.
Overnight, like you'll like be ready to fall asleep. It's 11:40,
Yeah.
and then you just be like, oh, what? And then like what? Multiple. It's a player option in year 4.
Yep, you get the 15. I do. I kind of like waking up to the except when the Bucks are involved. That sucks. But
Yeah.
it's like totally unrelated. I'm like, oh, neat. Like I get to wake up. There's usually more articles out by then, maybe even a podcast. I can kind of really take it all in.
Hmm.
Yeah. Well, 7 p.m. Central, 2 hours of free agency. The Bucks signed no one. The only players to change teams. Contavious Caldwell-Pope, that's a big deal.
Big deal.
3 years, $66 million to Orlando. Andre Drummond to the Sixers. That's it.
I think
Yeah,
so.
we're calling it. We're calling it.
I guess
Again,
if you want to call Kevin Porter Jr. going to the
Oh,
Clippers,
yeah.
but,
Yep. That as despicable as that is.
yeah.
But we will be back when the Bucks actually do something of substance. Or depending on how long it takes, maybe we could jump on right now. The Bucks just signed. I don't even know who would be like the funniest possible. The Bucks just signed Robert Covington.
Is he a free agent?
Yeah.
Oh.
He's just like, we're a little past, I think, the excited about Robert Covington.
The
But
Rocco.
hey, right now, I'd freak out if they signed
Yeah.
Robert. If we could deep dive the film. But anyway, thanks everyone for watching and maybe listening. We're very low, maybe low chance you'd just be listening on audio at this point because nothing happened. But we'll see, maybe not. But thanks to everyone for tuning in. Please make sure to subscribe on YouTube or wherever you're listening, but probably just YouTube. If you haven't already, very much appreciate you all following along. We will be back live again sometime soon when there's stuff to talk about, depending on timing, maybe a little after. Not sure. But thanks everyone for hanging out with us, and we will be back very soon, hopefully.